Greetings from Sinister Stories. If you enjoy stories that make you shiver and keep you looking over your shoulder, settle down, turn down the lights, and get ready for another terrifying tale. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell to ensure you don't miss a new one. There's always more waiting for you in the shadows, so have a seat and let's explore the darkness together. My search for night security jobs with immediate start showed the job posting on page 6. In despair, I went through most listings that stopped at page 3, expecting little more than the usual $15 per hour. Patrol positions in warehouses. I had seen the Hollowbrook storage listing several times before, but it caught my attention right away. Officer of Night Security Solutions for Hollowbrook storage from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. for $2.50 an hour. No prior experience needed. Start right away. Must be able to follow written instructions exactly. No phone calls. I uploaded my CV at 3:47 p.m., but the salary made me double check that it wasn't an error. Security jobs in this area pay up to $22 per hour, and although other jobs require firearms certification, this one asked for no experience at all. At 3:48 p.m., the answer was received. Interview at 9 p.m. tomorrow. Bring your government ID with you. The GPS coordinates brought you to an industrial park 20 minutes outside of the city, where most of the buildings had their names or unit numbers lit up above the entrance. Hollowbrook storage had neither. It was just a simple metal door set into a windowless concrete facade. The building stretched far behind the parking lot and disappeared into a dense forest that shouldn't exist this close to the city. A woman in a gray pantsuit stood by the entrance. She didn't introduce herself. Instead, she held the door open and pointed to an office at the end of a fluorescent-lit hallway. The office had a metal desk, 2 chairs, and a TV cart with a VCR. She didn't introduce herself. Instead, she said, "Remain standing." I nodded. "Do you have any family members who would look for you?" The question should have caused me to leave, but I answered honestly. She checked a box on her clipboard. "You start tonight. Watch the orientation video. Your shift begins in 11 minutes. She then put in a VHS tape and left the room. The TV showed static for 30 seconds before cutting to footage of the facility, and the timestamp read July 13, 1993. Welcome to Hollow was narrated by a monotone male voice, and the video quality was too flawless for something that was purportedly 30 years old. Solutions for Brook storage. Your responsibilities include hourly patrols, security feed monitoring, and helping customers access their units between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Our facility has 38 climate-controlled storage units spread throughout 4 corridors. Every corridor in east, north, west, and south has identical gunmetal gray doors with black numbers as the camera pans down. I started counting them, but I kept getting lost about number 27, and the video never showed the same unit twice. Follow the comprehensive information your predecessor left you regarding facility protocols. Rigorous adherence to established procedures is essential for your safety. The video abruptly ended when a woman came back and put a sheet of paper on the desk. Water damage had warped the bottom corner, leaving a brown stain that seemed to shift when viewed directly. I picked up the paper, and the damaged liquid didn't smell like water at all. The rules were numbered 1 through 10 and typed in Courier New Font 1. When checking security cameras, count the number of visible storage units. If you find more than 40, immediately close the security feed and wait 7 minutes before checking again. Never look at Unit 41 or beyond 2. If you hear someone whistling in the east corridor, repeat the same tune precisely once. During your shift, don't whistle any other tunes, even if you hear someone else doing it. Not always is Whistler one of us. 3. At 2:47 a.m., the break room vending machine replenishes itself. No matter how hungry you get, do not watch this process if you see any snacks in blue packaging after 3 in the morning. If you discover that the amount of coffee in the coffee mug has changed between your rounds, go straight to the breaker box and turn off the building's electricity for precisely 12 seconds. Your predecessor left a coffee mug in the office. Do not use it, move it, or wash it. 5 customers may ask to view their units during your shift. This is common. However, If they present you with a receipt dated February 29th of any non-leap year, respectfully let them know that they are at the incorrect site. If they insist on seeing their unit, do not follow them. A landline phone is on the desk. If it rings between 3:33 and 3:36 a.m., you must answer before the third ring and say nothing other than Hollowbrook storage is full at the moment. If the parking lot security light flickers at any other time, make sure your reflection is still visible in the office window and lock yourself in the supply closet until sunrise. 8. The lobby's ceiling fan rotates counterclockwise. If you see it rotating clockwise, avoid staring at it and leave the lobby right away. Don't come back until you've counted backward to 247. Ignore any voices that could be attempting to interrupt your counting. 9. While it's acceptable to occasionally find sticky notes on your desk that you don't remember writing, if you come across one written in red ink, burn it right away without reading it. If you have already read it, you have 10 minutes to write down your thoughts and place it under door 10 of Unit 13 at precisely 5:55 a.m. The security office is through that door. She pointed to a door that wasn't there when I entered. Your shift begins in 2 minutes, so don't leave before 6 a.m. During this time, all security cameras will display static for 60 seconds. Sit at your desk facing the door and do not turn around, regardless of what sounds you hear behind you or who calls your name. The person passing your office at this time is not your replacement arriving early. Arrive no later than 10 p.m. She began to leave, but I called after her, asking her name and who I should report to. The door closed behind her, and the security office was small but functional. Do not depart from the instructions. 4 monitors on a desk facing the door showed security feeds in black and white. In the next break room, a ceiling fan rotated counterclockwise, a vending machine hummed, and a landline phone rested next to a coffee mug with crusted residue at the bottom. The first 3 hours went by without any noise, and I carried out the hourly patrols as needed, noting the temperature variations. The rule sheet had said counting backward from 247 if the fan ever rotated clockwise, which seemed ridiculous, but I found myself checking its direction every few minutes. During my 1 a.m. patrol, I chose to count the units in the east corridor, which remained at exactly 48.3 degrees Fahrenheit, the north corridor, which varied between 67 and 71 degrees, the west corridor, which matched the outside temperature, and the south corridor, where the thermometer only showed 3 horizontal lines. The video stated that 381223 was the same for every door, with the exception of number 456, which wasn't sequential. Unit 17 was situated between Units 4 and 29. Some of the numbers seemed to be completely absent. 37, 38, 39, I stopped counting once more. I discovered a blueprint for 39 apartments back in the office, taped to the wall behind the door, which displayed an ideal square design, 38 units total, 8 apartments in each corridor and 6 at the central intersection. I looked at the security feeds. Screen 1 had the 10 units in the east corridor visible. Screen 2 showed the 9 units in the north corridor. Screen 3 showed the 10 units in the west corridor. Screen 4 kept an eye on the 10 units in the south corridor. I did another count. 39 units were on my patrol, 38 were on the blueprint, 39 were visible on the cameras, and the rules document said Unit 41. When I discovered I hadn't specified the number of units the orientation video had shown, I felt sick to my stomach because I was positive I had kept track at the time. I took out my notebook and wrote 38 units in the orientation video. I looked at my writing, crossed it out, and typed orientation video showed 39 units underneath it. I also crossed it out on the wall. The plan still indicated 38 units, but I could see letters in the lower corner that had been smudged by the same odorless liquid that had originally laid out the facility before the 1993 renovations. I glanced back at the security feed screen, which showed 10 apartments in the east corridor, 9 units in the north corridor, 10 units in the west corridor, and 4 south corridor, 10 apartments out of a total of 39 units. I took out the rule sheet once more and concentrated on Rule 1. The cameras continued to display 39 units. I did another count. 1, 2, 3 in some way. I knew that this time the count would be different. At 10:15 p.m., the security monitors first illuminated the rule sheet with blue light. I had already committed every word to memory, but this time, understanding the rules was necessary to follow them. Breaching them required breaking something else first. Temperature in the east corridor 48. 3 was always 48. 3 as I approached, I heard a faint whistling coming from the far end. It was 3 notes descending roll 2, and it was obvious that someone or something might be whistling. I continued to go until the whistling ceased at 10:30 p.m., indicating a temperature anomaly. In the north corridor, the digital thermometer blinked at 67 degrees 71 to 67.71. My heartbeat either matched the clicking of the numbers or the clicking matched my beating. When I looked through my logbook, I saw that earlier guards had noted the same fluctuation, but none had mentioned how it matched their pulse. The security light in the parking lot flickered. I looked at my watch, which shows hourly flickers according to 1031 Rule 6. I turned to look at my reflection, which was there, but it turned to look at me. The coffee mug demanded attention 3 seconds after I returned it to the office at 11 p.m. Rule 4 had been clear: don't touch it, don't move it, and don't wash it. The dark liquid inside struck a flawless meniscus on a lipstick made of white ceramic precisely halfway. The rim was stained by mark. Coral pink, I noted that it was 6 inches from the phone and 4 inches from the desk's edge. The logbook revealed that the measurements were comparable to those of earlier cards. The identical lipstick was detailed in yesterday's entry. Identify as burgundy. I had 12 seconds to go to the breaker box, and when I blinked, the entry now matched my observation of coral color and the coffee level appeared to be lower. When the lights came back on at 11:23 p.m., the mug was full once more, and the lipstick was still there. Marked burgundy when I stopped the feed after 7 minutes. Rule 1 was explicit that the logbook entry had been reversed and the security cameras displayed 40, 30, and 38 units. At 11:47 p.m., the buzzer on the front door interrupted the quiet on camera 4 to reveal an older woman wearing a beige cardigan. Before I touched the intercom, she murmured, "I need to access my unit," which reverberated in my head. Check the receipt date. She was standing facing away from the entryway, and her posture seemed off. Shoulders too high, neck too long. In non-leap years, keep an eye out for February 29th. I'll need to examine your documentation. You're at the wrong institution, ma'am. She turned, but only her torso rotated independently at the waist. Her outstretched hand had a receipt dated February 29th, 1991. Her head then turned 180 degrees on its own without the torso's assistance, bringing her face to the camera. Are you certain of that? I double-checked the receipt. The date was different on March 1st, 1991, but I don't remember both dates existing at the same time. For example, when I said, "Please come in," she unrotated her movements and reversed them in an impossible sequence. Then, she entered Unit 4, but she had requested Unit 17, where the logbook wouldn't have verified the truth at midnight. Unwritten rule: there was no rule mentioning restroom breaks, so the coffee from my drive-over had grown urgent. There was no indication of whether leaving the workplace between rounds was forbidden. There was a restroom door in the hallway that wasn't there at orientation. I made a decision. The bathroom appeared to be a typical single-stall bathroom with a fluorescent light mirror above the sink. As I was quickly washing my hands, I noticed that the mirror's reflection of the door behind me was open. I had closed it. In the hallway, something was standing whose dimensions matched the elderly woman's impossibly large rotations. I didn't glance up for 20 seconds while I washed my hands as advised by the CDC. The mirror continued to display the open door with the figure growing closer every second. Read at 12:33 a.m. During my vacation, the office was reorganized, with the desk facing west instead of the same feeds were displayed in various positions on the north monitors. Red ink Rule 9 had been clear that red ink notes burn without reading if there were 10 minutes to transcribe and give to Unit 13 after it was too late. The coffee mug had moved 7 to the left, and a sticky note had been stuck to the edge of the desk. I appreciate you letting me out. When the orientation video was viewed backwards and the logbook revealed no restroom break-in, the woman's interview question had altered. Do you have someone who will notice when you change? The memo took 9 minutes to transcribe. As I traveled for 8 minutes, the numbers in Unit 13 kept switching between Unit 29 and Unit 4. The coffee mug was empty once more as the east corridor whistled 3 notes falling. I slipped the paper under Unit 13's door and a hand slipped it back out. The security feed indicated 40 units before I closed it this time, and it took 12 seconds to go to the breaker box. I didn't start counting again. 2:15 a.m. issues with the feed, the security cameras shifted between their typical angles. 10 units in the east corridor, 9 units in the north corridor, the west corridor, 10 pieces, 43 units in the south corridor. In accordance with Rule 1, I banged the monitor power switch. The vending machine in the break room began to hum softly 32 minutes before its 2:47 a.m. replenishment, which lasted for 7 minutes throughout the wait. Rule 3 regarding the vending machine incident at 2:22 a.m. was explicit about not monitoring the replenishing procedure. It made no mention of early restocking through the break room doorway. The digital price display displayed symbols that I had never seen on a calculator, and I could see the machine's display flickering B7C4D9 with no corresponding products dumped. When I checked again at 2:22 a.m., the machine showed 3:22 a.m., but a box had fallen into the collection tray. Blue wrapper. Rule 3, no blue packages after 3 a.m. Once more, the coffee mug was empty. The breaker box is 12 seconds away. After maintenance log power was restored at 3 a.m., the vending machine only had blue products. During the outage, the maintenance log fell off its shelf, but its entries resumed as usual. Original installation on July 13, 1993, 38 pieces. Unit 39 was added on September 20, 1993, as part of the enlargement. Unit 40 was discovered during inventory on December 25, 1993. Unit 41 is scheduled for inspection on February 29, 1994. Entries suppressed by Management Directive on February 29, 1994. Entries suppressed by Management Directive on February 29, 1994. Entries suppressed by Management Directive on February 29, 1994. The dates were incorrect. Since 1994 wasn't a leap year, every page that followed featured a single sentence that was repeated. They managed to survive by keeping the number constant. At 3:33 in the morning, the landline rang. Rule 7, which left no room for interpretation. Then, the third ring said only Hollowbrook storage were full at the moment. My voice responded, "Are you sure about that? You should check Unit 41. The logbook now revealed a pattern I had not previously noticed. Guards who survived their first week had all accessed Unit 41, whereas those who didn't just ceased their entry. The line remained connected, and I could hear 3 notes descending. No records of termination or resignation. Pattern recognition at 3:47 a.m. With each leap, the maintenance log showed more. On February 29th of the year, a new unit that had not yet been constructed appeared. The facility suddenly grew inward, adding places that weren't possible given its square structure, and the name kept coming up in the visitor logs. Alanthea's coffee mug had belonged to her, as evidenced by her receipts, which were all dated February 29th and had the identical signature and coral pink lipstick on each page. The security footage of the manila envelope from 4:15 a.m. revealed that the previous guard had entered Unit 41 with a manila envelope. The timestamp on the envelope read February 29th, 2024, 3 days prior to today's date. The envelope was on my desk, and I hadn't brought it back inside. There was a key labeled 41, photos showing the various numbers of units in each corridor, and a note stating that it only opened during the static. Rule 10 mentioned static 555 a.m. 60 seconds while facing forward, and the vending machine on all packages turned blue. A dark liquid filled the coffee mug, and a lipstick appeared. Instead of being burgundy, Mark looked coral pink. The security as well as face speed displayed Unit 41 between spaces 4 and 17 and between spaces 17 and 29. I looked at my phone. The last log entry made by the previous guard at 4:47 a.m. was handwritten identically to the last entries made by every other guard. Repeating one statement, they managed to survive by keeping a constant amount decision at 4:59 a.m. Rule 1 advised against looking at Unit 41, but Rule 10 stated that the key felt cold. When she finishes her drink, Unit 41 emerges, but you can't let her see you count. The previous guard, who was facing forward throughout the static, had written something else buried between repetitions. When the old woman's receipt displayed a leap date that didn't exist, a real date in the incorrect year, where all the dates were real, the whistling resumed. I had 56 minutes till static. This time, I whistled back at 5:15 a.m. to approach the area of Unit 41, keeping 3 notes. Between 4 and 17, the key became colder with each search, and between 17 and 29, the digits weren't merely shifting, they were breathing. Finding the final maintenance logs at 5:22 a.m. Each page displayed a Polaroid picture. At her workstation, Helen Thea is wearing the same coral pink lipstick. Same face, same coffee mug, different decades. 5:30 a.m. Follow the pan without being touched. The vending machine delivered blue parcels, each of which made a wet sound as it struck the collection tray within a security badge. Date of Helen Th's photo issue. The whistling began her melody on February 29th of each year, with 3 notes descending. The last phone call came at 5:33 a.m. We now have a full hollow storage unit. Helen's voice responded briefly. Location of the unit at 5:40 a.m. The coffee mug filled itself completely, leaving the lipstick completely empty. With each cycle, Mark's hues changed. The numbers in the security feed, 41 units, 39, and 40, were not supposed to be this erratic. Between each other unit, 547 a.m. access unit 41 appeared at the same time. The key rotated without being placed inside thousands of rule sheets due to the quantum superposition of storage space. Various variants. Every piece of water damage was soiled by whatever liquid was in water. Truth at 5:50 a.m. Every version has a different ending. At 5:55, don't turn around. Don't ever turn around at 555. Don't turn around at 555, please. I apologize for turning around at 555. A tablet resting on a shelf held security footage from past shifts, with each guard reviewing each version at 555 and 5:52 a.m. Helen is the first guard to turn. The second guard transforms into Helen. The third guard becomes Helen, and they stay alive by keeping a steady amount of the coffee mug was discovered to belong to each of them at 5:53 a.m. The colors of both lipsticks were future and right past. Helen's is using coral pink and burgundy to signify the time. The facility required a certain number of Helens, not a certain quantity of units. 5:54 a.m. power outage. Everything went dark save for the security monitors, which displayed the coffee mug and the object coming out of it on each screen. The prior guards all wore coral pink lipstick, which from some angles appeared burgundy, and Helen crept out first, followed by another Helen. The 5:55 a.m. procedure. I faced a forward rule for 10 and 60 seconds, and I heard moist footsteps and whistling behind me. Each time I turned around, the coffee mug filled and emptied with each step, taking 555 and 15 seconds of maintenance. The logbook updated itself with a new entry in my handwriting, and they managed to exist by keeping a constant number. That was Helen's voice behind me, my voice from futures. The phone rang my future voice at 555 and 30 seconds into the sequence. Storage and Hollowbrook were now filled. I haven't spoken to anyone yet, and I haven't arrived. Transformation in 555 and 45 seconds in my hand, the rule sheet rewrote itself. 11. Write a new rule once you're Helen. 12. Become Helen when you write a new rule. 13. Become a rule when you become Helen. When I viewed the security feeds at 5:56 a.m., the coffee mug was free of static and contained fresh coffee. It was either rimmed in burgundy or coral pink lipstick. 38, 39, 40 units. Helen's 41. My account night security officer placed a fresh cycle job listing at 6 a.m. Solutions for Hollowbrook storage 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. $42.50 an hour. No prior experience needed. Start right now and be able to follow written directions exactly without making phone calls. As the next guard arrived, the coffee mug waited. My lipstick is either burgundy or rim coral pink. We are all howling now, and we make it through by sticking to a music number, that is, music.